It's my pleasure to stand up here after all these terrific years in the past. And Marlene, I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart anymore. Thank you. As we embark here in 2025, it brings great solace to this conference, as always, with some shine of some needed rays of hope and excitement during these challenging global times that we all now face. At Jefferies, we continue to remain a partner of this terrific conference, as well as being totally committed to the entire Caribbean region. It has always been an honor over the past 20 years to give a few remarks during the opening ceremony of this conference. And it's always a pleasure to once again be down here in Kingston, the city I personally have called my second home for nearly 4 decades. As Managing Director of Jefferies, my mandate is to serve our clients with the absolute best we have to offer as a firm. At Jefferies, we continue to pool our talent and our resources to create the best workable solutions for our clients. The global markets continue to evolve at light speed pace that I have not seen in 41 years that I've been in the investment business. But at Jefferies, we take pride in creating new opportunities for our clients, and ways of doing business. At Jefferies, we are talent-driven, we are visionaries with core values, but most of all, we are client-focused. In short, our primary focus is to deliver for our clients throughout the globe. Before I dive right on in a little bit about the current global markets, and I don't know if I'm going to address all the issues about the new administration due to compliance of Jefferies, I do have to always tell you that these are my own opinions, and they may or may not reflect those of Jefferies LLC. Anybody that's been here in the past has heard me say this. It's one of these preambles that I must say. Having just returned a few days ago from Asia, I was reminded that 2025 is the Chinese year of the snake. And given these immense volatile markets since the end of last year, that label seems rather fitting to me. It is perceived that the years of the snake bring obstacles and generally prove to be transformational. Considering the prior years with this very same label was 1929, 1941, 1953, 1965, 77, 89, and 2001. Were all years of either war, economic maladies, recession, or political or financial instability. The average move in the S&P in the past years of the year of the snake was down 5%. So let's all hope and pray that we are going to take that head off the snake. I'm hoping for the best, and I'll let you in on a little secret, however. I am a historian at heart, and I'm a bit superstitious as well. Regardless of what 2025 will bring from both an overall economic perspective, I would like to read a quote in Barron's a few weeks ago. And I quote, "Parties, after all, are often followed by deep hangovers." After 2 years of stellar U.S. stock performance on the heels of AI craze, I believe that as seasoned investors, we should be expecting far less momentum trading and should be expecting far more normalized returns here in 2025. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm a bit doubtful that the S&P can post a three-peat of 20-plus returns since 3 years ago. Putting the year of snake aside for a moment, one thing is a given. The U.S. Fed will continue to normalize rates, maybe a bit slower than we all thought a few months ago, but they will still be lowering rates, and that's exactly why I continue to believe that locking in yields when the Fed is accommodating has always proven to be a great trade. However, given all the moving parts to this uncharted global landscape, patience will also be needed no matter what sort of securities you feel comfortable owning when it comes to investing in general here in 2025. From my perspective, it seems that investors willing to play the markets today seem to be rationalizing that they will never sell because of the types of returns they have experienced over the past few years. However, from my perspective, current earnings growth in the U.S. are just a little too lofty So I continue to remain in a defensive posture because of my own past experience. To me, it really seems like deja vu all over again, memories I personally saw during the internet craze of the late 90s that led to the dot-com bubble. The internet, like AI, was a real game changer for sure. But when the markets price in all the upside valuations at once, history does tend to repeat itself. True, the AI stocks are real companies with solid earnings growth, unlike the internet companies back in the 90s. But the market's primal emotion seems unrealistic and unsustainable levels, in my opinion. In other words, the current market, to me, are pricing in most assets to be riskless. Sure, AI is indeed a real game changer, but all the expected revenue generation has quickly been built into current equity valuations even before AI has really hit its stride. There are many other seasoned market veterans like me who are currently warning investors not to expect equity returns topping 20% like we saw in the last 2 years, but few are ready to call an end to the AI-fueled stock boom. Listen, I'm not even willing to call that end myself. I think I'm a believer the near-term upside with these stocks are great, but the bulging valuations are tough to be sustainable. I've learned the hard way that when momentum markets prevail over fundamentals, corrections can be torrid and quick, just like I witnessed back in 2000. And for this very reason, I do remain a bit pensive. I've seen this rodeo before, and I probably will never participate in these speculative environments to the upside. But I can tell you one thing, I will remain insulated and defensive, so when the markets revert back to the mean, as they always tend to do, I will be enjoying some very restful nights in Atlanta while others lie awake. I underscore my thoughts here by saying many analysts on the street, in my opinion, have set the bar a bit too high in 2025. Put simply, to me, bonds look cheap, stocks look a bit expensive here in the early trading days of 2025. Finally, a little history that I have personally witnessed is in order. Ronald Reagan got elected as president in 1980, and I see a lot of you are probably going to have to Google that out there. Just a few short years before I entered the business. The S&P shot up nearly 9% in the ensuing weeks since the election, with the animal spirits running wild, much like they did when President Trump won the U.S. election in last November. However, the S&P 500 peaked soon after Reagan took office and subsequently rolled over down 10% just a few weeks after he took the oath. And just as in the case today, Reagan assumed the office of the presidency on the heels of a stubborn inflation that had consumed the prior administration. It went down actually another 10%, making an official bear market in the first 6 months of the new Reagan administration. By the way, like today, if I would have told you that back in 1980 when Reagan took the oath, they would have took me out on a gurney to the insane asylum. I'm giving you this history lesson because it was kind of scary to me how President Trump was compared to Reagan when he rang the bell at the opening of the New York Stock Exchange before the holidays. It goes to show you that nobody, not even the toughest presidents, are larger and meaner than Mother Nature. Rather, history has always taught me that nothing can stop a normalized market cycle that always reverts to the mean. The U.S. economy is indeed strong, and hopefully the new Trump administration will prevail in the long run, just as Reagan did. But 2025 still looks a bit precarious to me. And as a side note, if you had bought solid bonds back when Reagan took office, it would have been the trade of a decade. So I think stocks will not have the hefty return that we saw in 2023 and 24. But for those that do buy stocks, stock selection here in 25 will be crucial to one's respective portfolio. As far as bonds, I'm a believer that the Fed will see weakening data appear towards the end of Q1 and pivot again, and subsequently they'll end up cutting more, in my opinion, their two rates that have been previously telegraphed for this year. I believe if an investor has patience, solid fixed income securities will be the trade here in this new year. Regardless, stay utterly diversified and defensive, to me, remains paramount in these types of uncharted waters. I do recognize that all exponentially rising markets go further than I always think, and obviously that this one is no different than others. I saw this in the past, but I also learned that these sorts of manias do not correct sideways either, and the current massive equity exposures out there, in my humble opinion, scares me. It only makes this ongoing soft landing narrative that much more a fantasy more than an inevitable reality. Again, artificial intelligence is indeed a real game changer, but this utter sense of complacency and herd mentality has me unnerved currently. And with a huge concentration in the silos of equity space, it is for this reason that I do fully remain a bond bull. If you go back to April 2008, the then Fed cut minus 25 bips, but signaled a pauses were coming. So they made that hawkish cut that we just saw back in December of this year, of 24. After April in 2028, the Fed did not cut again for another 5 months on the mistaken belief that everything was aligned properly with reviewing their dual mandate. The hawkish cut sent the 10-year bond up 50 basis points and was truly painful back then, as it has been in the beginning here up till today in 2025. However, if you bought fixed income and bonds back then and were patient, that outperformed the S&P 500. Finally, I'm not suggesting do not buy stocks. Believe it or not. And not to diversify. On the contrary, I'm a full believer in portfolio diversification. But given this frothy valuations, to me, it makes far more sense to focus on solid stocks with dividends as well as security-centric fixed income, thus creating a well-balanced defensive portfolio after these past few years of record returns. Look, when I see countries such as Germany, I just came back from China, the UK, they all currently have economic challenges. It's been my experience that only a matter of time before these sorts of maladies spread somewhat through the globe. And from my vantage point, the U.S. market seems to be getting a little tired in the beginning days of 2025. So remember, when you see volatility that we've seen, have respect for what the markets are trying to tell you. That sort of volatility is not normal. Now, I'd like to make some comments about Jamaica, which is the favorite part of me being up here, and the rest of the emerging markets. Emerging market debt had what I flippantly describe as an okay year in 2024. The MB Global Diversified Benchmark returned a positive 6.54% for the year. With the underlying treasury yields rising, the sovereign credit spreads tightening moderately, allowing for positive overall total return for the index. However, it was somewhat bifurcated market by ways of credit quality. Investment grade returns, which are relatively more linked to U.S. treasuries, were basically flat. The high yield component of the benchmark returned an impressive plus 13%. Junk rated countries emerging from debt restructuring, similar to where Jamaica was 10 years ago, were the top performers. These are countries like Argentina, Ecuador, Sri Lanka, Zambia, among others. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Jamaica no longer fits that high-yielding category. Although still rated low double B by the major agencies, all of these ratings have positive outlooks and are likely to go higher in the future. I would be remiss if I did not mention that in addition to lowering its post-COVID debt to GDP from 94% to 73%, a feat that most countries, including developed countries, have yet to carry out, Jamaica also named its first female Minister of Finance, the Honorable Favour Williams. Given all these facts, the market is already pricing Jamaica at or near investment grade. And this part is important. Jamaica international bonds are behaving more like their investment-grade counterparties these days than the rest of the emerging markets. So further spread compression will be difficult. Jamaica bonds returns are more likely to be governed by the underlying movement in U.S. Treasuries going forward. The bad news is that Jamaica bonds are not currently attractive to international investors right now, given their tight spreads, despite positive economic policy trajectory and an NIR fast approaching $5 billion. The good news is that Jamaica bonds are now more to be likely viewed by the international community as a real safe haven for investors. Thank you. I've been coming down here for over 35 years. I've seen a lot, including the financial crisis, restructurings, and I don't say that lightly, that statement, that where Jamaica is considered now a safe haven credit. That has taken some real heavy lifting. What an accomplishment to Jamaica's ongoing fiscal stewardship and its impressive leadership. I do think the marketplace would welcome more corporate and quasi-sovereign issuance out of Jamaica, and given the most recent positive transactions, as Agnes alluded to, surrounding Kingston Manley Airport, few could disagree with my assessment here. Finally, there could also be some more demand from international investors for Jamaica dollar paper, as Jamaica's monetary and fiscal policy settings continue to be very solid under the current administration. You have all heard me say this in the past, and I'm not being political, but kudos to you, Mr. Prime Minister. I certainly have rambled on long enough, and I made a remark to the Prime Minister that we usually see one another in airplanes, not here in person. Many times we cross paths while traveling. But on behalf of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, as well as my colleagues at Jefferies, I trust you will enjoy the next few days. I'm excited about this conference, and I hope we all continue to thrive this conference going forward on the heels of what Dr. Marlene Street Forrest has created. Thank you.
And thank you too, Gregory Fisher, for your usual thought-provoking insights. And of course, over the next 3 days, we'll be able to have some one-on-one with Jeffrey. So I'm sure you can something else you can also look forward to. Now, we've had an extraordinary evening so far. Now it's time to relax a bit and enjoy some entertainment before we move to the next part of our program. Earlier, we were moved by a stirring rendition of our national anthem. This next performer's versatile talent spans classical, jazz, reggae, and folk music. You know, he has proudly represented Jamaica across the globe and has showcased our rich culture on the global stages. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy Steve Higgins.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, Lord. Michael, help. Michael, you going to help me? Good evening, everyone. Ah, that sounds better. Thank you, I got this. Those who have flown in, good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. Good evening, Dr. Street Forrest. Those who have flown into Jamaica for this event, may I see your hands, please? Wow, okay. And those who are resident here in Jamaica, may I see your hands, please? All right, so I have a photographic memory, and you're going to help me with this first song to welcome the other people, because what we're going to do is a Jamaican welcome song. Is that okay? Hello? All right, let's do this. More. This It's a long time, girl, me never see you. Come make me hold your hand. It's a long time, girl, me never see you. Come make me hold your hand. Everybody, feel it, jump, go sit on the treetop, pick up the blossom. Make me hold your hand, girl. Make me hold your hand. It's a long time, girl, me never see you. Come make a walk and talk. It's a long time, girl, me never see you. Come make a walk and talk. We let John cross, sit on country top, pick up a blossom, make me hold your hand, girl, make me hold your hand. It's a long time, girl, me never see you. Come make a wheel and turn. It's a long time, girl, me never see you. Come make a wheel and turn. We let John cross, sit on country top, pick up a blossom, make me hold your hand, girl, make me hold your hand. Make a wheel and turn to the tumble down, make me hold your hand, girl. Make a wheel and turn to the tumble down, make me hold your hand, girl. Thank you, but I didn't hear you singing. Turn that up for me, please. Let's see if you'll know this one. When the rainbow rhythm start to play, dance with me, make me sway. Like the lazy ocean hugs the shore, hold me close, sway me more. Like the flowers bending in the breeze, bend with me, stay with me. When you dance, you have your way with me, stay with me, sway with me. All the dances may be on the floor, dear, but my eyes will see only you. Only you have that magic technique. When you sway, I go weak. I can hear the sound of violence long before it begins. Make me feel as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. That's your dancing in your seats. That's a good start. Dances may be on the floor, dear, but my eyes will see only you. Only you have that magic technique. When you sway, I go weak. I can hear the sound of violence long before it begins. Make me feel as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. Make me feel as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. Sway me now. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so this one, you're going to help me sing this one. Let's go. Everybody knows this one. Everybody. And you know this one too. Can I find it? Coconut. 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 We remember Harry Belafonte with this one, okay? Coconut woman is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Coconut woman is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Get your coconut water, man is good for your daughter. Coca have a lot of iron, make you strong like a lion. Already tell me the are that day that no one can take her sweet love away. I asked her, what is the mystery? She said, coconut water and rice curry. You can stir it in the pot. Man, you stir it very hot. Coca have a lot of iron. Make you strong like a lion. When I put my hand up in the air, I'm not drying my nails. Here to sing coconut. Turn up the music, just listen for me. This is me. Coconut. Let me hear you say coconut. Good. Coconut woman, say you'll agree. Coca make a very, very nice candy. The thing to have when you're feeling glum. Coconut water with a little white rum. It will make you tipsy. Make you feel like a gypsy. Coca have a lot of iron. Make you strong like a lion. I'm hearing you, but you still sound like you're in church. Church people drink rum sometimes, you know. Right, Prime Minister? Watch him. Coconut woman is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Coconut woman is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Get your coconut water. Man is good for your daughter. Coca have a lot of iron. Make you strong like a lion. It will make you tipsy. Make you feel like a gypsy. Coca have a lot of iron. Make you strong like a lion. It will make you handy. Make you feel so dandy. Coca have a lot of iron. Make you strong like a lion. Coconut. All right. Oh, you like that one? You have love? This is for the ladies. Gentlemen, help me sing this one. Only fools rush in, but I can't help, gentlemen, falling in love with you. Can I stay? Would it be a sin if I can't help falling in love with you? Like a river flows surely to the seas, darling, so it goes. Some things were meant to be. So take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. Like a river flows surely to the seas, darling, so it goes. Some things were meant to be. So take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. For I can't help falling in love with you. Oh, you like that one too, eh? 1 second, please, sir. This one is dedicated to Dr. Marlene Street Forest. Everybody saying, "Oh." This lady has done so much for Jamaica Stock Exchange, hasn't she? And we celebrate it, right? Putting you on the spot, Doc. All right, so let's go.
To dream, find unbeatable hope. To bear with unbearable sorrow. To run where the brave dare not go. Or and the chased from afar. To strive when your arms are too weary. To reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star. No matter how hopeless, no matter how far. To strive for the right, without question or pause. To be willing to march into hell for that heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lay peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this. That one girl, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with her last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
I thank you. I will end with this one. Did you know that next month, on the 6th of February, will be Bob Marley's 80th birthday? Would have been. Did you know that? Sing with me now. Everybody knows this one, right? Don't worry about a thing. Hello? 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. I tell you, don't worry about a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning with my eyes to the rising sun. 3 little birds beside my doorstep, singing sweet songs, a melody pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. I tell you, don't worry about a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. I tell you, don't worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, no, every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning with my eyes to the rising sun. 3 little birds beside my doorstep, singing sweet songs, a melody pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. Sing with me now, please. I tell you don't worry. Good, I hear you. About a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. I tell you don't worry about a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Chorus again. I tell you don't worry about a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Thank you very much. I'm Steve Higgins. It has been a pleasure.
One good thing about Steve Higgins, when he sings, you feel no pain. Steve Higgins, ladies and gentlemen. That was a nice, pleasant change there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to introduce once again someone I've had the pleasure of welcoming several times over the years to this conference. And you know, each time he brings a fresh perspective and an undeniable sense of purpose that has shaped Jamaica's journey forward. He's not just a leader, but someone who continues to strive for what's possible for our nation. With his recent achievement of earning a doctorate, he adds even more academic depth to his leadership. I don't know what his thesis statement was, but if I had to guess, I'd say it might have been titled Strengthening an Economy while Creating Growth Opportunities. How's that? It perfectly sums up what we've seen in recent years, and given that Dr. Nigel Clark, our former Minister of Finance, now serves as the Deputy Managing Director of the IMF, we might just be the only country where the economy anchors of our government come with diplomas to prove it. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is maybe my, certainly my 9th year addressing the Stock Exchange Conference as Prime Minister. And I have addressed it in other capacities. So maybe I've done 15 years of the 20 years. And I have not missed one of the last 10 years. Because this is a calendar event, a marquee event, and a very important event for setting the stage for the rest of the year when it comes to the economy. And as I survey the audience, I do see some familiar faces, faithful ones who come to the conference every year. But this year I'm also seeing many new faces. And Marlene, I must also say that the attendance this year is great. I'm sad, Marlene, that you're going. And I'm sure it's the sentiment of everyone who has interacted with you. You're such a lovely person. But don't worry, we will find something for you to do. Welcome, Minister Duggan, or Duggins, forgive me. Let me acknowledge members of the diplomatic corps who are here, and our newly minted Minister of Finance and her husband. You know, I must commend Stephen Whittingham for his presentation. it is clear that he has been following what I've been saying. I've been preaching this issue of productivity now for the last 3 years. It is part of the pivot and the next chapter. And I'm very happy when I hear senior executives of business speak so passionately about productivity. It is a subject that we speak about in low tones, almost fearful, lest we touch on social corns, as we call it. But it is something that we will have to confront as a nation, this issue of productivity. And I'm very happy that you have dealt with it here, and I hope that our media will take the presentation, it is a presentation of substance, and that our journalists who we depend on will analyze it and further explain it to the population, the importance of productivity. Angus, as usual, your presentation is a very powerful one, and I note that whilst you were being very diplomatic in saying that the government is supporting the development of the market and bringing new products and helping the financial sector to bring new products to the market, I know you're really saying the government should do more. It is such a pleasure to be here at the 20th staging of the Regional Investment and Capital Market Conference. Over the past 2 decades, this conference has become the signature calendar event for the investment and capital markets industry and epitomizes the dynamism and resilience of the financial sector, not only in Jamaica, but in the Caribbean region. I always make it a point to be here because of the significance I place on this event. As we embark on this new year, it is fitting to reflect on Jamaica's economic journey, a story of resilience, determination, and transformation. A decade ago, our nation faced daunting economic challenges. We had very high debt levels, high unemployment, volatile inflation, exchange rate instability, and minimal or no growth. I get the feeling that we have forgotten about that. We are in a new normal. Today, that new normal, we stand as a testament to the power of prudential management, strategic reforms, and the indomitable spirit of our people. Let me do a quick comparison of some key macroeconomic variables which will cement the point of how we have moved from instability to stability, from crisis to now being on the launch pad for growth. In 2016, our debt to GDP was approximately 120%. Today, we are projecting that at the end of this fiscal year, in March 2025, we will be 68.8% debt to GDP. This is the lowest we would have been since the 1970s. I want us to appreciate the economic journey. We're just getting back to where we were in the 1970s. Unemployment in 2016 was 13.7%. Unemployment today is now 3.6%, the lowest it has been in our history. Youth unemployment, when I took office, was at 32%. Now it is at 10.4%. Since 2016, we have created 245,000 new jobs. This is at an average of 28,000 new jobs per year. Before that, we were creating maybe 15,000 jobs on average per year. Average annual inflation since my administration took office has been 5.7%, even with the COVID spike. 5.7%. This is after I've said the COVID spike, and we had that spike for approximately 3 years. And this is the lowest average annual inflation that has been achieved by any government since 1972. In the year immediately before we took office in 2016, the Jamaican dollar depreciated by 5.4% relative to the US dollar. In the last 12 months, the Jamaican dollar has depreciated 0.9%. In fact, the annual average rate of depreciation of the Jamaican dollar relative to the US dollar for the entire duration of my administration has been 2.9%. Again, this is the lowest rate of currency depreciation by far under any political administration since 1972, the year I was born. This exchange rate stability did not happen by chance or by good fortune. We have exchange rate stability because of two factors. One, we are now running a balance of payment surplus on our current account. In fiscal year 2022-2023, we achieved a balance of payment surplus of US $345 million, or 1.9% of GDP. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the first time Jamaica recorded a balance of payment surplus since 1966. However, this was not just a one-off occurrence. In the 2023-2024 financial year, we again recorded a surplus of US $610 million, or 3.1% of GDP. We have a very robust foreign exchange reserve right now. Our net international reserves, when we took office, was somewhere in the region of about $2.3 billion. At the end of December 2024, our reserve, Gregory, stands at $5.6 billion US dollars. Again, the highest ever in our history. And I'm going to return to that point because when I say these things, sometimes our public listening will say, you have all of this money in reserve. Why don't you use it to do something? Without understanding that if you take away the reserves, you take away the stability. It is the reserves that gives the stability. And in a highly politicized environment, especially when information is not always accurately interpreted, you can have perverse outcomes. And so I have to take the time sometimes to remind the public of why it is we make the fiscal decisions that we make, that ultimately it is for the benefit of you, the consumer, the household. If we make bad economic decisions, even if they seem to bring short-term relief, you are going to pay for it dearly in the long run. So, another point that I would wish to emphasize to this gathering of investors is that Jamaica is the only country in the region with no foreign exchange controls and a freely floating, market-determined exchange rate. Yeah, yeah. Investors will appreciate that. This is a place to come and do business. Our external credit rating, as measured by Standard & Poor's, has improved by 7 notches from the lowest level of SD, selective default, in 2013 to BB minus. We are now just 3 notches away from achieving investment grade. And if you listen carefully to what Gregory said, it is clear that our bonds are behaving as if, or rather the market is treating our bonds as if they are safe harbor for investment grade. Can you imagine coming from selective default, being viewed as the economic basket case of the region? Clap yourself. Just today, I had sight of the results of the latest Business and Consumer Confidence Survey. The index of business confidence has surged to 149.3 points in the fourth quarter of 2024, an increase of 12.9% over the previous quarter and 7.3% overall for the year, or rather 7.3% over last year. In fact, the index is at the highest level since the pandemic and less than 2 points shy of its all-time high of 151 points, which was set in Q1 2019. Nearly 70% of firms consider it a good time for investment, up from 53% in the previous quarter. Now that tells you the resilience of the economy. Obviously, the previous quarter would have been impacted by Hurricane Beryl and other weather events that followed. But look how quickly confidence has recovered. Consumer confidence has rebounded in Q4 2024 with an increase of 4% over the previous quarter. Macroeconomic statistics, are one thing, but let us look at some other statistics. Let's take poverty. When my administration took office, the poverty prevalence was 21.4%. We reduced that to 11% in 2019. It shot up after 2019 to 21%, and we understand why. This was during the pandemic years. Now, the latest estimate is that poverty prevalence is about 12.3% in 2023. We expect that the next survey will have this below 11%. This is very important because in a society like Jamaica, where inequalities are considerable, it's one thing to preach to this audience about how well we are doing economically. It's another thing for the people who are struggling every day to recognize that the good economic results are translating into improvements for their everyday living. Let's look at the minimum wage. When we took office, the minimum wage was 6,200 Jamaican dollars or 51 US dollar per week. Now it is 15,000 Jamaican dollars per week or 96 US dollars per week. Not fantastic, but it is an improvement, and I can tell you there is more to come. This administration believes that we must share the economic progress and share it equitably. Our abiding mission is to lift people out of poverty. We must end absolute poverty in Jamaica. That is the abiding mission of this government. Let's talk about crime. I'm told I should mention this in an investor meeting. But there is nothing secret. You go on the internet, so let's deal with it and put it into context. Jamaica is improving its security. The challenge with the improvement in security is that it takes time for it to have an effect. I give you an analogy. Someone dropped in a pothole, and they called me. I spent 30 minutes on the phone with them. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I had to volunteer to replace a tire. Okay? 7 days after, please don't, I can't take any more calls. So 7 days after, the pothole was fixed. And I got a call to say, boy, Prime Minister, I see the work going, I see the roads being fixed, I like it. So fixing the pothole, fixing the roads, they have an immediate impact on the misery index. Almost immediate. But consider someone who lost a loved one to a murder. Even if I were to say the murder rate is cut in half, the perception lags. So the security issues take some time to take effect. And the truth is, the mobilization for security is far more complex than, let's say the mobilization to repair roads. So the security journey has been a long and arduous one. But we have made significant progress in the transformation of the JCF in leadership, manpower, and material. Significant. Their investigative capacity has increased significantly. Their intelligence capabilities have increased significantly. Our domain awareness and control capabilities have increased significantly. We have made massive investments. That is why you're seeing 2 years of reduction in murders. 7.5% the year before, and now almost 20% this year. And you will continue to see reductions as the JCF and the Jamaica Defense Force and the other security entities execute Plan Secure Jamaica, which we laid in 2016. And that is having an effect, a real impact. And the biggest measure of that is that we have cut the number of gangs from over 300 to now just under 170 active gangs. And we continue to degrade their capabilities. The biggest impact, of course, is that major crimes declined by 14% in 2023, and they are now 40% lower than they were in 2015. And in fact, we had a decline in major crimes in 2024 by about 8%. And in fact, in 2024, we are now reporting a crime level that is probably lower than what it was in 2002. So we are making significant impact on crime. The purpose of the comparison is to show that by any objective measure, Jamaica is in a fundamentally different place today than when my administration took office. No other nation in the world has matched the scale of Jamaica's economic turnaround in a decade. And I am not the only one saying that. Gregory Fisher just said it in probably more eloquent terms than I have. The country has made significant strides. We have transformed our economy. We must now move to transform our society, transform our infrastructure, transform our health, education, make Jamaica safe, and make Jamaica truly the place of choice for people to come and do business, but above all else, to make Jamaica an affordable place to live. So Jamaica's economic progress over the last decade has been remarkable, but growth remains below the level needed to achieve our full potential. Historically, periods of growth were followed by years of decline. Today, we experience sustained, consistent growth. Yes, we may have some interruptions. COVID, Hurricane Beryl. But immediately after, 1 or 2 quarters after, you see the recovery starting. So, before the pandemic, we achieved 20 consecutive quarters of growth, followed by 13 consecutive quarters post the pandemic. The decline in the July to September 2024 quarter caused by Hurricane Beryl and the likely impact of Tropical Storm Raphael and heavy rains in the October to December period are temporary setbacks. Now, I know some persons are heralding this as an harbinger of things to come. This is not so. The fundamentals of the Jamaican economy are strong. Despite these challenges, this represents the longest economic expansion in Jamaica's independent history. Longest period of expansion. However, growth remains anemic, averaging less than 1% per annum over the past decade. And that is the challenge. How do we take this economic stability and convert it into accelerated growth? That's the challenge. So as a small developing island state, our economy remains vulnerable to climatic events. And to achieve our national development goals, we must significantly accelerate growth to ensure a resilient and thriving future. That is what we mean when we say we're going to pivot. We're not going to take our foot off the step that we have planted it on, which is the fiscal responsibility and management of our economy and the stability. But we need to turn, as in the netball analogy, to face the goal. We need to make a turn to get onto another step, and that is the step of growth. And that is the pivot. That brings us to the next chapter. My administration is preparing to lead Jamaica into the next chapter. And we have given some definition as to what that chapter will look like. Having been on this path for the last decade, we can sometimes lose sight of the fact that stability was never the destination. Stability is the foundation. It is the foundation on which we will build. This is why in November 2024, I announced a pivot in our national economic policy direction, the pivot towards growth. The growth agenda comprises 6 key pillars, and the tagline that we're using of this pivot is Aspire. Access to economic opportunity for all, that is the inclusive growth agenda. Safety and security, we will continue to push safety and security.
Can
people
hear me though?
and our focus on human capital development.
But I'm seeing audio on
Stephen mentioned
the thing here.
labor productivity.
Yeah, if I couldn't get a headphone
That is what this
or
is about.
something, I could maybe plug it
How
in
do
and-
we build our
What kind of
human
camera?
capital
What is
to
this?
produce more?
Who made
That
this?
is training and education.
That-
Infrastructure development. Jamaica has aging infrastructure caused by lack of consistent investment. In other words, we went through almost 4 decades of disinvestment in our infrastructure. And when aged infrastructure meets epiphenomenal climate events and weather events that are outside of the normal, the destruction it wreaks on the infrastructure is far greater than what would ordinarily occur, which is why we experience all of these potholes and landslides and roads breaking up. When you put those two things together, the only way to overcome that is to grow your economy very fast so that you can rebuild the infrastructure, not to the old standards, but rebuild the infrastructure to new standards that can withstand the impact of climate change. And that is what we're going to be doing in the next chapter. And then there is the reform of bureaucracy to improve ease, speed, and cost of doing business. You know, when the sociologists invented the term bureaucracy, it was not a pejorative. In fact, it was a compliment, especially for colonial governments, because they needed to have a bureaucracy to run an empire. And in fact, you really couldn't be an empire without a bureaucracy. Bureaucracy was such an important thing. But like everything else, they become self-indulgent. They exist solely to fulfill themselves. And it doesn't really matter that people who need to cross a bridge can't have the bridge. What matters is that you comply with all the rules in order to build that bridge. Oh God, that puts the politicians in a really difficult spot. Because the people in Troy want their bridge, but we have to get all the approvals before we can build the bridge. So the question for us is, how do we comply and at the same time become more efficient? You can't give up the compliance because that's another way in which the people won't get the bridge. But then the other question is, how do you increase the speed, change the processes, remove unnecessary regulations so that the compliance is easier, so that the people get the bridge? And we have spent a lot of years in the last decade putting on all kinds of new legislation. We have layered very thickly regulations and all kinds of legislation, which may not all be relevant or properly aligned. It needs to be rethought. It needs to be re-engineered. And that is an entire process that government has to get involved in. And that is a part of our bureaucracy reform. We are not anti-bureaucracy. We are for efficient bureaucracy. And by the way, Jamaica is not the only country going through that. There is something called DOGE or DOGE. And then economic diversification and development of new industries. If we're going to grow, we cannot continue to rely on the 5 or so pillars of our economy. We have to branch out into new areas. And we're going to have to be fearless in branching out into these new areas. You know, we are a service-based economy. And we're a service-based economy largely because the cost of energy is high. We have to figure out how to get the cost of energy lower in Jamaica so that we can build out more manufacturing-based industries. So some people hear me talk about oh, nuclear, and it's all, why are we thinking about nuclear? Well, you have to think about renewables. Thankfully, the price of renewables, particularly solar, is coming down rapidly. Technology is improving. Battery capabilities are improving. But it's not going to give you the quantum that you need. And as nuclear technology is receiving now greater interest and new investment because of AI, that new investment will deliver a new era of nuclear technology in small modular nuclear reactors. It's not there yet, but it is going to take Jamaica 10 to 20 years to build up the human resource capacity to be able to manage SMRs. So let us not think small and think that we can't do it. We have a very small nuclear reactor at the University of the West Indies for over 30 years there. We are building a small nucleus of scientists there who can manage it. But if we're really going to think about Jamaica as an economic powerhouse, we have to solve the energy issue. And let's face it, I read somewhere where I see Microsoft or Google, one of them, is planning to take over an old nuclear plant and run it, a company. Come on, we have the capabilities. Recently, I was in New York and I met a young lady, and she said to me, Prime Minister, I'm a nuclear scientist. I work for the government of the United States, and I would really want to come to Jamaica to help with a nuclear program here. We have to start to think in that regard. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are problems. But let us not close the door on it. Let's think about it very carefully. Let's develop the capacity and put ourselves in a position that should the technology become feasible, we are at the head of the line to implement. And that's why we have taken steps to form partnerships with Canada to start to train our people to develop the capacity here. And even if we don't have a small modular nuclear reactor, having nuclear technical skills is still very good for our economy, for science, and in other areas. But the real diversification has to come from our people. Other countries have oil, they have gold, they have ports and canals. Jamaica has people. That's our goal. And for years we have been exporting that gold to other countries. Jamaica is a net exporter of talent to the world. There is a change for the next 4 years at least. Let me say no more. We face a problem here in Jamaica where, when I say that we have a labor shortage, for some people they are shocked. Because around their community, they see a lot of young men digging holes in their hand mills. They see a lot of young men unemployed and young women underemployed or not doing anything. But that's precisely why we have a labor shortage. Because we need skilled, trained labor into the workforce. So the investment in getting all our potential labor force trained, that is going to be the focus in the next chapter. Because we need to have not just low-level service, but we have to get higher-level services in order to grow the economy. The financial sector is one area in which we can expand rapidly and bring in more higher-level services. And in fact, we can make it an export industry. The services, the persons providing the services reside here, but do work remotely for people all over the world and companies and corporations all over the world. We have it now, we call it the BPO, the Global Services Sector, but we must improve the level of skills to get higher value services to bring in greater revenues into the country. And that is going to be a target focus for the government in the next chapter. So Aspire is designed to create a virtuous cycle of peace, productivity, and prosperity. At its core, it is the recognition that growth must be inclusive, equitable, and resilient. We envision a Jamaica where every citizen, regardless of their background or circumstances, has the opportunity to thrive. Let me be clear. This pivot to growth does not in any way mean that we're going to abandon fiscal prudence. I have to say that, because I don't want any misinterpretation. We will never go back to the days of run with it, not under my watch. We have worked too hard and sacrificed too much as a country to ever go back to that. Good fiscal management and macroeconomic stability are now business as usual for my administration. We have been putting out quite a bit of information on some of the pillars of Aspire. We've talked a lot about security, infrastructure. I believe we need to see a little bit more on skills. But I want to focus this evening on improving the ease and cost of doing business. Reducing red tape and bureaucracy is central to Jamaica's growth agenda. To achieve rapid economic growth, we aim to become the most business-friendly and citizen-focused country in the region. Many current approval, permitting, and regulatory processes were designed during a period of fiscal constraint. And that is the reality. With our debt to GDP ratio now significantly reduced, it is time to streamline these systems. We will simplify approvals, reduce wait times, and eliminate outdated barriers and unnecessary layers of bureaucracy. This effort benefits not only large investors, but also micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Efficient government processes will also make it easier and faster for citizens to interact with public agencies. We are determined to end the outdated notion that efficiency compromises quality. Or put it another way, if it didn't take long to be done, it wasn't done well. We are the country of the fastest man alive. We must translate that speed on the track to the speed of doing business. To drive this transformation, I will appoint the Speed Task Force, streamlining processes for efficiency and economic development. Speed. And we will do that by the end of February. The task force will identify bottlenecks, recommend actionable solutions, and deliver tangible outcomes within specified timelines. Whether through a single team or a rotating group of focused individuals on specific areas, the mechanism will ensure Jamaica's business environment meets world-class standard. We are aiming for business at the speed of thought. We are implementing a phased process of digitalizing government services that interface with businesses and citizens. The days of standing in long lines and navigating through mountains of paperwork will come to an end. We will be rolling out end-to-end digital systems for business registration, tax filing, and permit approvals. Our e-government platforms will be designed to ensure that e-services are accessible anytime, anywhere, and on any device. The foundation upon which all of these digital services will be built is the new digital national identification, which has already gone live and is scheduled for full rollout early this year. I got my NIDS card, and I give you a little joke. So I got my NIDS card, the Governor General got his, and a few others in the pilot phase. And some other persons have gotten. So one person who got the NIDS card went to the bank with the NIDS card. And the teller took the card and said, "Is what is?" Stephen, you're laughing. there will always be some skepticism, some fear of technology, some resistance. Let me say that the NIDS card by law is the only identification you need if you present it. It is the national identification card. So once you present that card, no bank, no other entity should be asking you to present some other form of identification. It is the most comprehensive and robust identification system that Jamaica has. The technology behind it is cutting edge, and it is the foundation on which we will build the digital society. The government is modernizing Jamaica's legislative and regulatory framework to position the country as an international business and financial service hub. Recent legislation has raised the participating share capital limit for the junior stock exchange, the junior market companies, from 500 million to 750 million. You mentioned that. Reflecting strong support for this market, which now boasts 48 listed companies with a market capitalization of $148.5 billion as at December 2004. I believe somebody was whispering to me, when is it going to take effect? So the legislation has been passed in the lower house. It goes to the Senate on Friday. I'm certain it will pass the Senate there. And then it goes to the Governor General for his royal assent. And then it becomes law. So within a matter of days, that will be the new share capital limit. While Jamaica already has a robust financial sector, further modernization is essential to meet international standards. The Jamaica International Financial Services Authority, JISTV, and I just pause here to say that from my first time in cabinet, which was in 2007, by 2009, we said we were going to establish Jamaica as an international financial service center. To this day, it has not happened. We have passed a lot of legislation. I can't blame that totally on bureaucracy. Much of it is policy drift. Sometimes governments say they're going to do it, lack of commitment, and it doesn't get done, intervening circumstances. But as I stand here today, it is our intention to ensure that we complete the legislative framework to ensure that Jamaica can become an international financial service center. We have passed the Partnership General Act. We have passed the Partnership Limited Act. We have passed the Trust Act. We have passed the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act and the Segregated Accounts Companies Act. And the final piece that we now need to pass is the Limited Liabilities Company Act, and this is being refined to align with global standards. This act aims to provide a more business-friendly framework than the Companies Act, which what we will do is make this new act familiar to the global community. This legislative suite reflects the government's commitment to creating a modern business environment that supports both local and foreign enterprises while ensuring compliance with global standards. It will offer new business structures, attract investments, and solidify Jamaica's place as an international business hub. I want to talk a little bit about tax reform. Reforming Jamaica's tax system, including customs, is a critical focus of our government for sustainable economic growth. Despite facing the worst global health and economic crisis in a century, my administration has delivered 9 consecutive budgets with no new taxes. Read my lips. 9 consecutive budgets with no new taxes. Not even a tax on imported food items. But alongside that, we have given significant tax reductions and tax giveback, a remarkable achievement for a developing country. First time ever that we have given a tax giveback recently, and people are still getting it. We are committed to further simplifying tax structures and streamlining processes to reduce compliance burdens and foster growth. Expanding online tax payment systems and tax administration services are key steps. Additionally, tax incentives and regulations are being reviewed to enhance competitiveness and drive sustainable economic growth. And these are some key initiatives. We are exploring tax legislation to incentivize the repatriation of businesses, including their activities, associated assets, and profits to Jamaica. So we know that there are many Jamaican companies that have chosen to domicile in various other jurisdictions. We want to bring you back home, and we will make it very favorable for you to do so. We are moving forward with the long talked about project to consolidate the various payroll taxes into a single payroll tax deduction. Again, this started in 2007, and it meandered through administrations, just didn't get done. I remember when it was first posited by former Prime Minister Bruce Golding. We are now well on our way to have it done. In fact, I've given the tax authorities a deadline. I won't say the deadline publicly yet, but they have a deadline. And I received an update from the Ministry of Finance and the Tax Administration of Jamaica on the project, and we are targeting implementation of this by January 2026. So by January 2026, we should have the single social contribution payroll system established. But I've given them an earlier deadline to make sure that the system is actually up. We are exploring an increase in the threshold at which small businesses need to register and account for GCT. In 2019, my administration increased the threshold from 3 million Jamaican dollars to 10 million Jamaican dollars, and we are looking at a further increase to remove this burden from small businesses. We are looking at revamping the urban renewal tax credit with the aim of enhancing its effectiveness. This involves restructuring its framework and expanding the geographical areas eligible for this incentive. By doing so, we can attract greater investments into underserved communities, transforming them into economic hubs. For example, we are establishing the new urban centers in each parish to create new hubs for economic activity that will ultimately grow into vibrant local economies. The first of these is the Morant Bay Urban Center. Now, I don't know if you have gone that side of the island recently. I urge you to just take a drive out to the Morant Bay Urban Center. It is the first purpose-built town in Jamaica. And that's what it is going to turn out to be, on 25 acres of abandoned factory land. Some of you might remember in the heyday of Jamaica's production, the Goodyear factory. And we have converted that into a new urban space to complement the new road that is there. Go and take a look at it. And that will be the model. We will be building an urban center in close proximity to existing towns as a strategy of removing the congestion out of the town, bringing in new business and new energy, and developing the old town for their historic and cultural assets. So you will have the new Morant Bay Urban Center, and then you will have the old town of Morant Bay, where we will put a museum, We will develop their park, we will improve their streets, develop the historic houses that are there, and turn it into a real attraction and create an urban space in addition to a suburban space where persons can live. That's the vision. Jamaica, the place of choice where you can live, work, do business, raise your families, and retire in paradise. To complement this, we will be creating tax credits around these urban spaces. So if you're looking for businesses to invest and areas where you want to allocate capital, the development of urban spaces is going to be the new game in town. And I know NCB Capital Markets would have participated in the new urban center. And this is to improve our overall infrastructure. Now, to encourage businesses to modernize and retool their facilities as well as for investment in technology, we're considering the implementation of accelerated capital allowances. This measure would support enhanced productivity and competitiveness, especially in key industries that drive our economy. And 6, my administration has always been very supportive of the capital markets, whether it is the support for the junior market, the reduction in stamp duties and transfer taxes, or reduction in the tax on dividends. Now, I can't say too much at this time, but we are exploring a reduction in the rate of tax on dividends from the current rate of 15%. Further to that note, in support of wealth creation, the government has facilitated public ownership of national assets via the stock exchange. In the same vein, the government, and we're doing more, the government will very soon be divesting its 20% shareholding in Trans-Jamaica Highway Limited, held through the National Road Operating and Construction Company, NROC. This will be undertaken through a public offer for sale. So that is going to be something that the capital markets can look forward to. Also, later this year, the Port Authority of Jamaica will be divesting a percentage of its BPO assets, again through a public offer for sale on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Before I close, I want to say a few words on the relationship between the cost of doing business and the cost of living. There is a close and circular relationship between the cost of doing business and the cost of living. When we improve the ease, speed, and cost of doing business, efficiency gains allow businesses to lower prices for customers. Conversely, inefficiencies, slow bureaucracy, and higher taxes or fees raise the cost for businesses, which are eventually passed on to consumers as higher prices. The high cost of living, exacerbated by global inflation from post-COVID supply chain disruption, remains a significant challenge. Food, energy, and transportation costs are the main contributors to the high cost of living. The government has provided subsidies for transportation, reduced the GCT on residential electricity, which we plan to do from 15% to 7%, and we are planning other measures. We also have measures which are now focused on reducing food costs through agricultural improvement and support for local farmers. Improving the ease, cost, and speed of doing business is not just about fostering investment, but it is also about transforming the lives of people. Every reform and bottleneck removed contributes to a more prosperous, equitable, and inclusive Jamaica. In closing, I am optimistic about Jamaica's future. The economic environment is favorable for businesses, entrepreneurs, workers, citizens. My administration remains committed to building on our successes, creating an environment where businesses can thrive, investments can flourish, and all Jamaicans can benefit from economic progress. Together, we will achieve peace, productivity, and prosperity. I wish you all a very productive and successful conference. Thank you, and God bless Jamaica.
Prime Minister, if you will, we'd just like to have you a few more minutes back on stage. We have a special presentation that we'd like to make to you for your 9 consecutive years of commitment to this conference, okay? Dr. Marlene Street Forrest would like to make a presentation to you. And thank you for that inspiring address and your vision for Jamaica's future. Thank you again. Dr. Street Forrest, may I ask you to just remain with us a little bit longer? Okay, please stay with us a little bit longer. I'd like to invite the chairman of the JSE, Mr. Stephen Whittingham, to join us on stage. You know, just about here, we'd like to honor outstanding individuals and organizations who have made significant contributions to our financial community. First, we recognize Dr. Marlene Street Forrest for her 2 decades of dedication to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And I really sincerely join the Prime Minister in saying, oh, I'm really going to miss her. I'm sure her husband Franklin will be happy. And I'm sure Franklin will be happy to have you. Okay, we'd also like to acknowledge Mr. Gregory Fisher for his impactful contributions to emerging markets and just being a great friend of this country.
Some things are just never said, no.
Greg has been with us right from the outset and he's stuck to it, and hey, we are very grateful for his commitment. Finally, we extend our heartfelt appreciation to our valued partners for 20 years, and the following companies will now receive awards. The Jamaica Observer, number 1. Let's hear it for the Jamaica Observer. Chairman. we're not done with you yet. Okay, Stephen. Okay. Who's here from The Observer? Or have they left to write the story for tonight? The Jamaica Observer, okay. Here she is. Yeah, these are 20 years of ongoing commitment. Next, Stephen Gooden, we're going to ask you to come up here as well and make a presentation to the next organization, C&W Business. C&W Business. Anyone here from C&W Business? If not, I'll be happy to take it. Okay, stay right where you are, Steve. Let's move. Television Jamaica TVJ. 20 years of ongoing service. Anyone here from TVJ? Okay, moving right along. Oppenheimer is our next recipient. Oppenheimer. Anyone here from Oppenheimer? Okay, I know for sure NCB Capital Markets Limited. I mean, anyone here from NCB? Angus. Okay. And of course, earlier this year, we lost someone very significant and a man with a lot of vision, but his legacy lives on. The next organization we are honoring is Pulse Modeling Agency. And I'm thinking of Kingsley Cooper as we do that. Pulse Modeling Agency, anyone here? Okay, and so while the award is being presented to Pulse Modeling Agency, we just like to okay, so as we said before, these are for 20 consecutive years of service, and I think they deserve a very special round of applause. That's commitment and stick-to-itiveness. Now, we'd also like to honor our other sponsors, Jeffries, NCB Capital Markets, Jamaica Observer, Pegasus, TVJ, Massey Group, JMMB, Sagicor Group, Deloitte, GK Capital, Burrito Investments, Flow, Fosrich, Oppenheimer, CIBC, Caribbean Assurance Brokers, Trans Jamaica, JBDC, IDB, Pulse, Worthy Park, Intelligent Media, JPS, PSOJ, and of course the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Another round of applause, please. Without these organizations and persons, we wouldn't be able to do this, and that's a fact. Okay, so a number of persons have really gone above and beyond to make this event again possible, and so thanks is in order, and to do the honors, I'm going to ask the Group Business Development Manager, Mr. Andre Gooden, if he will do the vote of thanks for us. Andre? There you are.
Nice tie. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our Master of Ceremonies, who I believe has done, if not all, most of these 20 editions of the Stock Exchange Conference. Well done, Michael, and we look forward to your continued support. I would also like to thank Reverend Dexter Johnson, who continues to lead us in bringing some solemnity and some spirituality to our proceedings. Year after year, several times he has done it, and we thank him for making the time to be with us and to continue to support us. Our welcome was done today by none other than Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, and we want to thank you for those words, of course, of welcome. As usual, very warm, but we also want to thank you for your vision and motivating us and making us believe in ourselves as the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and that reminding us that what the Jamaica Stock Exchange can achieve is not really confined to the shores of Jamaica. That is something that will live with us. Thank you very much for your years of service and your commitment to this particular event. To our chairman, Stephen, reminding us that we are here to make access to capital available to all, not just some. And also reminding us about the transformative benefits of economic growth, which we really want to embrace. Angus, as you sit there with your citation, revolutionizing investments, thank you for recognizing the Jamaica Stock Exchange role in innovation and economic growth. And thank you again for NCB Capital Markets' commitment to this event over the years. And beside you, of course, Greg Fisher, for your commitment to the Jamaica Stock Exchange for the last 20 years. I mean, I personally have been reading and listening to you for in excess of 20 years. And every time you speak, I learn something else. Not just about the capital markets, but about the Jamaican capital markets. So we thank you, Greg, for your commitment, and we look forward to your continued support as well. Steve Higgins, what can we say about Steve Higgins? But wow. Greg will talk about portfolio diversification, and that is evident in Steve's repertoire, which he showed us tonight, a wide repertoire. Thank you very much, Steve. And for being a continued ambassador for Jamaica in your travels across the world. Thank you to the members of the diplomatic corps who have been here with us and who continue to support us every year. Several of them have left, but some of them are still here, and we thank you all for being here. I want to acknowledge Ambassador Fermin Quinones, Cuban ambassador to Jamaica, and his charge d'affaires, Rolando Davia Gallardo. High Commissioner Derek Murray. Those of you born before 1970 would know Derek Murray as the outstanding West Indies wicketkeeper for many years, and we still revel in the glory of those days for obvious reasons. Prime Minister, we thank you for realizing and accepting the challenge of facilitating growth. We now need to actualize that vision. And we thank you for also recognizing that government bureaucracy is sometimes a hurdle to doing business, and we will be following very closely for measurable improvement in that. And we have some team members, or at least one, who we believe would serve very well on that committee to reorganize the government bureaucracy. Every year you come here, Prime Minister, and you bring us some good news. The last couple of years you brought us a lot of encouragement, but we didn't get any really good news. But this year, we thank you for your vision in terms of moving forward to with the International Financial Services Center. The firm timeline for an increase in the threshold of the junior market, which you say is within a few days. We thank you for that. Payroll reform initiatives, revisiting the tax on dividends, These are all stimulants for our market, and we thank you for them. The only problem is that I know that you still left something for the Honorable Minister to come and present to us tomorrow. He didn't give us everything, I'm sure. Madam Minister? So we'll be here bright and early in the morning. The Master of Ceremonies has already thanked our several sponsors. I thank you again. I'm not going to go through the list again. I have 2 more days in which I can do that. But every sponsor, major, minor, whatever, is a sponsor. And your contributions to the success of this event over the years cannot be discounted. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to 2 more days of excellent interaction, networking, and let's do business. Thank you very much. Have a good night. See you in the morning.
Thanks, Andre. Nice tie indeed, my brother. Nice tie. Ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible way to kick off this milestone conference. And to think tonight was just the beginning. Tomorrow we'll dive even deeper into the issues shaping our markets. Now, on behalf of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, thank you for joining us tonight. Let's make these next 3 days one for the books. I'm Michael Anthony Cuff. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Take care on your way home.